Hello, my name is Russell Myers, independent for U.S. President for 2024. Last night, as of this recording, Tucker Carlson aired on his own channel online, tuckercarlson.com, his interview, a 2-hour interview with Vladimir Putin, president of the Russian Federation. Now, I was waiting for the reactions to this interview this morning, and they all turned out to be pretty much everything that I was expecting. There are Hillary Clinton called Carlson a useful idiot. There are people saying that he should be charged with espionage. This is not espionage. He didn't he didn't have access to or transfer any kind of state secrets to Vladimir Putin. Some people are claiming he should be charged with treason. I don't care what these people think. If Tucker Carlson got arrested for some charges based on this interview, I really don't want to know, with his following, just what kind of public reaction would occur from this. What he was doing was journalism. And this is what journalists should do. They should, talk to each side. If we are in a conflict, they should talk to each side of that conflict, the different entities that are involved. Now, Tucker Carlson said that he offered to do an interview with Vladimir Zelensky, and that has been denied. And I really wouldn't advise Carlson to go to Ukraine because he has now been placed on the Ukraine kill list. So bad idea to go there, even if they said yes. I would definitely, if that happens, do it electronically. Do not enter Ukrainian territory. Now, of course, this has had at least 47 million views as of this morning. That number is going to keep rising during the day. Now, I would like to think that most of those were in the United States, but I'm not going to entirely count on that. Now, of course, this is how many people probably logged on to watch the interview. But as soon as I heard that it was 2 hours long, I knew that most Americans, even if they logged on for the interview, they would not watch the entire thing. Part of this is the big criticism has been Vladimir Putin's, detailed summary of the history of the Ukrainian region. And, that was a very good summary, which didn't really last that long, maybe 10, 15 minutes. But it was extremely detailed. Something you have to understand is that that Russian history, Russian-Ukrainian history, goes back for over 1,000 years. So this isn't like the United States, where you're going back 200 years and that's it. This is a long, complex history of a region that has been, extremely tumultuous, and there have been a lot of changes. The reason for that history lesson, and I've heard people say, I know the history of that region. Well, if you actually knew the history of that region, you would understand that this history lesson was necessary for most people that do not know the history to get a grasp on what is happening now. The reason for the history lesson is Zelensky's exorbitant claims that Ukraine historically occupied this massive amount of territory, including parts of Hungary, Poland, Moldova, southern Russian regions, southwestern Russian regions. And history, if you know the history or you listen to this explanation, his history, you can look it up in a history book, and it will take you a lot of time to do so. His history was extremely accurate. The fact is that Ukraine historically, as a region, is, and Russian history are very much tied together. Very much. Okay? Russia did arise out of the Kiev Rus region at the time, which was centered in what is now Kiev. But so their histories are absolutely tied together, as are Ukrainian history with Poland, Hungary, Moldova, and other countries in that region. Otherwise, Ukraine as a nation did not exist until it was created by the Soviet Republic. And that was a large part of that history that he was going into. And then he went into the history of this conflict going back to 2008 when the Soviet Union, when NATO offered to, make Ukraine a member, which Russia opposed, and which, going back to 1991, from the 1990s onward, NATO promised not to expand eastward, which would become a threat to Russia, and yet NATO continued to expand eastward from 1998 forward. They have expanded and expanded and expanded, and now on Russia's doorstep with Finland, Sweden, these other countries being part of NATO at this point. And he brought up the meeting between himself and Bill Clinton, where he actually proposed Russia being part of NATO. And Bill Clinton said, well, that's an interesting idea. Let me get back to you. That was in the morning. In the afternoon, he came back and said, I talked to my staffers, and they said no. So it wasn't the president of the United States president making this decision. It was his underlings that made this decision for him. So this Russia being part of NATO would have made sense. If they're part of NATO, they're not going to attack other NATO countries, and this would spark, obviously, an immediate response of Article 5, where any NATO country attacked by another foreign by any other country is going to get a response from all NATO countries. And he knew this when he proposed it. Carlson asked him, well, would you have actually joined? He said, well, yeah, if the NATO countries were reasonable and on this, then yes, we absolutely would. So NATO needed, the fact is that if Russia joined NATO, which was designed to fight the Soviet Union, which at that point no longer existed, well, NATO, Putin didn't say this, these are my words, NATO needed an enemy to continue its existence. If Russia was part of NATO, NATO in its original form and in its current form would have no reason for existence. All right, so from that point he went to 2014 and the overthrow of the democratically elected president of Ukraine by neo-Nazi elements that remain in power in Ukraine to this day. I know that a lot of Americans say, well, no, they're not neo-Nazis. You can go back in Western media, going back to 2015 at least, just Google neo-Nazis Ukraine and include the year 2015, 2016, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. And you will find an abundance of articles, including Human Rights Watch, the United Nations, New York Times, Washington Post, The Guardian, the BBC. They all talk about Ukraine's Nazi problem. And then all of a sudden, in early 2022, all of that just stopped existing. The articles are still up there, but in rhetoric, all of that just got wiped off the board. No, there's no Nazis in Ukraine. No. So history is out there. The history is there. Now, I'm going to say I've got another channel, YouTube channel, called Issues Unite. And I have done a lot of videos. My channel goes back to 2017. And since the Ukraine conflict started, I have done a lot of videos on this. And some of it goes into the history and so forth and so on. Anyway, and then he brought it forward to 2022, and what happened there, according to the Russian perspective, which honestly, you can look up all of this stuff because I was watching all of this form as it was happening. I was surprised. I thought that eventually a conflict was going to occur, but the suddenness of it did surprise me, but I'm limited to open source information, just like you are, and there's a lot of information that became open source after the fact, like the fact that Ukraine had they refused to honor the Minsk agreements from 2014 and 2015 that were signed by Ukraine for the security of the Donbass region. The agreements were signed between Ukraine, Russia, with France and Germany as guarantors. And then, early 2022, Ukraine said, we're not going to honor that. And they intensified the attacks on the Donbass region. They had amassed 120,000 troops. This was not in the interview, but they had amassed 120,000 troops along the line of contact with the Donbass in preparation for invasion. That was when Russia responded. Then Russia went in. That initial invasion only involved 80,000 troops. But, so, the point was to bring Ukraine to the negotiating table. That worked. They met in Ankara, Turkey. They made agreements, preliminary peace agreements, which were signed by Ukrainian negotiators. And soon as Russia pulled back their troops as a sign of goodwill, that agreement just ceased to exist. So Ukraine has refused to honor not one, not two, but 3 different peace agreements. Putin doesn't stress all of this, but I am. Yeah, Minsk 1, Minsk 2, and the agreement in Ankara. 3 agreements which they have signed, which they have refused to honor. These are big things. Anyway, I think that this interview, I really think that people should watch this interview, not the opinions of people like Hillary Clinton or Rachel Maddow or whoever, Russophobic talking head. And I'm not endorsing Russia on this. I'm just saying that the different sides need to be heard. And this is what Carlson managed to do. I think that this is the most important interview that has been conducted in this century so far. Yeah, I really do. Now, the quality of the interview, I'm going to say I could have done a lot better. During the history part, Tucker Carlson looked like he was going to fall asleep. His laugh is annoying and offensive, especially at a world leader. That laugh was offensive. Over the length of the interview, it really seemed to me like Putin continually just dumbed down to the level of the interviewer. It really seemed that way to me. He wasn't condescending, but he simplified what he was saying to an extreme degree. I've heard Putin speak on a few occasions, on video, of course. I've never been anywhere near the same room or anything like that he's been in. But he is an eloquent, highly intelligent, extremely intelligent speaker. And when you see the difference between other speeches that he has made and this one and this interview, you do see it that he was really dumbing himself down. I guess. But, and Carlson is not dumb, but he knows his audience, and Putin knows his audience. So the intellectual level of the interview just kept declining over time. But still, no matter what, I think that everyone should watch that interview. It's highly important to hear the opposing side. If we want to end a conflict, there's really only one way to do it. And Putin said that that Russia has been open to negotiations all throughout this conflict, and this is true. You can, if you haven't paid attention, you can look it up. The Biden administration cut off diplomatic relations with Russia. Vladimir Zelensky signed an executive order making it illegal to negotiate peace with Russia. Other people, like Macron from France, they have spoken with Putin and Zelensky, but it was while France was arming Ukraine. So that's, and then he went back to France and badmouthed Putin, not with any new information or valid criticism. He just went back to the same propagandistic talking points issued by Washington and Ukraine. If you really want peace, if you want to end a conflict, then negotiations have to occur. And that means that both sides have to be heard. Anyway, please, just, even if you don't watch the interview, share this video, talk about these subjects far and wide. We have to at least encourage the listening of each side of a conflict. We can't just support one side blindly and keep repeating composed talking points and sticking our fingers in our ears. No, I don't want to listen to them. Oh, no, if you listen to Putin, that makes you a traitor. No, it does not work that way. All right? So, share this video. Talk about these subjects. If you can afford it, please donate whatever you can to help expand this campaign, because it's very clear that I will listen to each side of a conflict. I am for diplomacy. I am for ending or preventing conflicts instead of spending trillions upon trillions and upon trillions of dollars on warfare and costing millions of lives. I'm against all of that. All right, so thank you for watching. I hope you have a good day.